Okay, well, why don't we start out? I'll just do the intro. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dorota. I'm the sales manager for Shing Digital, and I will just be doing the intros. I'm not going to be doing the education. I will, however, also be exploring the cotton candy flavors with you. Some of you may be wondering whether to actually get onto the cloud. Others might already be partially there, but wondering how to maximize your investment. So we wanted to speak to you specifically about cloud readiness, and we have, of course, three wonderful speakers. Amir Suziwala will be speaking to the cloud-based Microsoft 365. There are many features that many of us are still unaware of, and he will be speaking to us about how to maximize our investment. Amit, I already forgot how to pronounce your last name. Shawan? Do I have that correct? Amit?
Yeah, Amit Johan. Yeah.
Johan. Oh, so close. He will be speaking to us about moving to Azure and benefits, cost savings, and security. Our own Cash Wong will be speaking about the readiness of organizations to move to the cloud or expanding the presence in the cloud. So I will be passing the baton to each speaker, but please feel free to ask questions. I know that you're muted, that's so that we're not all talking on top of one another, but in the chat or in the river, please post your questions, whether it's during the presentation or after, or if you want to hold off until the very end. In between, we will be just kind of checking in with you as to which cotton candies you have tried. There are 6 different ones, and there are 6 flavors. So all of them are liquor inspired. Okay, but some actually do have liquor infusion, but it does burn off during the cotton candy making process. So even if you don't drink, it's okay for consumption. It's fine. All of the cotton candy is made in-house by the Sugar Cube, and we ensure all is free of any major allergens. I will also be sharing with you guys at the very end your custom discount code, which is Shing10. It expires magically midnight on October 31st. But you can get a discount from the Sugar Cube if you do want to order some more candy. So I will be reviewing some of the flavors in between very quickly, but we have champagne, coconut rum, tropical punch, grapefruit vodka. I'm very curious about that one. Tequila lime and root beer rum, my least favorite. Another housekeeping item, and this is something very exciting, is we will be giving away actually the Microsoft Surface Pro 7. And so hold off until the very end to learn how to go about that. You're probably hearing in the background, of course, as life would have it, the vents that are being cleaned in my house are being cleaned right now as I'm speaking, because this is a live event. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to mute myself, but I'm going to pass it on to Amir to take it away.
Great. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Just going to move this lovely image of me. There we go. So hi, everyone. My name is Amir. I'm a modern workplace specialist here at Microsoft, and I work with partners such as Shing Digital to help grow M365 across Canadian Smbs. And today I'm joining you live from my living room all the way from Cambridge, Ontario. Super excited to be with you guys today. My presentation today is going to go over the following, right? One, we're going to kind of understand some of the challenges that we recognize in this new age of remote work. And 2, how M365 addresses these challenges through Teams, our security offerings, and M365 Business Premium. So let's dive right into it. Teamwork in Smbs is quite frankly really messy, right? Much like this slide. You're dealing with disjointed collaboration and file sharing, dispersed resources, that lack of a centralized hub for information, solutions for a mobile workforce in this work-from-anywhere environment, and third-party applications that generate security concerns. It's overwhelming, right? And as more and more companies, right, are starting to make this transition to remote work, we're noticing more security concerns than ever before, right? Up to a 5-fold increase in cyber attacks since COVID has started. We're noticing that businesses are really vulnerable, right? Almost 1/3 of cyber attacks are targeted at small businesses. 61% of small businesses that experienced a cyber attack were not able to operate, and the average cost, right, of a data breach is upwards of $108,000. That's a lot of money, right? So what's top of mind for our customers? And here's what we recognize as being the biggest challenges and opportunities for SMBs across Canada today. One, how can we do remote work better, right, with multiple employees working across multiple locations? How can we maintain security, right, with security concerns being at an all-time high? And how can we reduce costs, right? Everyone here wants to save money, but also how can you reduce costs and simplify, right, your IT infrastructure? And that's where M365 comes in. We have three flavors, right, of solutions for businesses across Canada. I won't spend too much time on this, but beginning with M365 Business Basic, right? This gives you Teams, your Exchange Online, your OneDrive, up to 1 terabyte, and Sharepoint, and web versions of the Office suite, all for $6.40. So if you're on the fence right now and going from an Exchange Online license that's $5.10, you can get so much more for that extra $1.30. We have M365 Business Standard, right, which gives you everything with Basic plus those desktop applications, and M365 Business Premium, which is our most comprehensive offering, which gives you everything I've talked about so far, but also addresses that security piece, right, with that enterprise-grade security, and we'll get into that soon. The commonality, right, between all of these licenses is Microsoft Teams, our best-in-class collaboration tool. And if you're like me, your entire 9 to 5 and beyond, right, has been on web meetings, online conferences, and in front of a laptop, right? Meetings have always been the cornerstone of teamwork, and people who are really dependent on each other, right, to achieve shared goals and align and drive progress, right? In fact, meetings are just so vital right now that most of our time during that workday is spent in meetings. But the biggest question is, how are you and your organization getting the most out of them? And whether it comes in the form of meeting fatigue, unpreparedness, distractions, a lack of follow-through, meetings today can be counterproductive, right? And Teams is our solution to that. The value proposition of Microsoft Teams and SMB is anchored in really 4 core pillars, right? It's your one integrated solution for real-time teamwork, including chat, calls and content collaboration, and that integrated Office piece. 2, it's having secure audio, video, and web meetings. 3, that ability to easily collaborate, right, with external parties with a rich experience that includes chats, meetings, calls, and file sharing. And because Microsoft Teams is part of Office 365, it comes with that enterprise-grade security, compliance, and manageability that our customers expect. Teams is truly a one-size-fits-all solution, right? If you just want to have that one-on-one with your boss, a small team meeting, or a conference of 300 people, right? Teams is about making meetings smarter, and through functions like Together Mode, Presenter View, this side-by-side that I'm doing right now, and breakout room functionality. But it also gives you that ability, right, to co-collaborate and a forum to easily share and store files. Teams is powered by M365, right? The same enterprise-grade security and privacy solutions that many of our enterprise customers use and trust today. Teams supports more than 90 regulatory standards and laws, and IT admins can monitor and resolve performance issues with the Teams quality dashboards quickly and easily to identify those quality issues and bottlenecks with real-time data and insights. And for those times where maybe the internet's down, right, or you simply just prefer to dial in with your phone, you can use audio conferencing, right, to join your meeting. I think what I love most about Teams and what our customers love about Teams is its ability to be that all-in-one solution, right? Gone are the days of sending back and forth Word documents, PowerPoints, and Excels through email, right? Not having that most up-to-date copy of your files. With Teams and Office, I'm able to work with that same Excel or PowerPoint as my entire team and have a shared space, right, to easily access the most up-to-date copy. So in short, Teams is really how we can do remote work better. Now, what's our second pillar? And that's maintaining security, right? So maybe the most frequently question I get about Microsoft security is Microsoft really a security provider, right? And a common misconception is that Microsoft is seen as a player in the security game, but in the last few years, we've actually become the largest security provider in the world, and we invest over $1 billion per year in security and research and development. The result of kind of several years of investment is a worldwide threat intelligence network with over 8,500 Microsoft employees powered by human security specialists and assisted by AI and machine learning. Right? Additionally, years of investment in enterprise products like Azure Active Directory and Intune have made Microsoft a leader in security, identity, and device management. This is the same technology and security that we build for the world's largest businesses. And on a daily basis, Microsoft is monitoring over 24 trillion daily security signals. They use AI-powered predictions in tandem with human analysts' expertise and insights. And we've stopped over 9 billion endpoint threats, 31 billion identity threats, blocked over 32 billion email threats, and have committed to over $20 billion in investment over the next 5 years to combat future security risks. So it's no wonder, right, that Gartner has ranked us as the industry leader in security across access management, cloud access security brokers, information archiving, endpoint protection, and unified endpoint tools. Speaking of unified endpoint tools, right, we have Intune, right, and Intune protects your data on virtually any device. So MDM, or mobile device management, is all about managing that access on company-owned devices, right? It'll assist you in enrolling, reporting on compliance, provisioning, and removing corporate data. Then we have mobile application management, so you can manage which apps, right, can be used to access work and email or files on personal devices, really supporting that bring your own device work environment. So you can publish mobile apps to users, right, report app inventory and usage siloed to your company's applications, and ensure security, right, with your ability to remove corporate data within those mobile apps. Now, as cool as bringing your own device sounds, right, and mobile application management sounds, it's important to understand that there is no dilution, right, between your managed corporate applications and personal applications. So here's a great example, right? On my phone, I have my Outlook, I have my Teams, I have my Office suite, but there's no connection to my personal email, Google searches, my Facebook, my Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. None of it's connected, right? So corporate data cannot be copied to those personal apps because the managed apps and personal apps are completely siloed off. So the benefits of M365 Business Premium is that everything is integrated, right, from collaboration, workflow, productivity, and security, all in one offering. So you can collaborate in real time with teams, as we talked about already. Enable secure access and protect identity with multi-factor authentication, conditional access, and WBD. And you have the tools needed to combat today's cyber threats with advanced threat protection and defender. And with Intune device and mobile app management, you're able to easily secure and manage your devices. So why choose Microsoft for security? Well, we work across iOS. We're the most complete, right? So we work across iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows devices. We're the most secure, and we offer the fastest time to value, providing users with fast rollout and out-of-the-box integration. So let's recall what we've talked about at the beginning of my presentation. Team enhances how businesses can do remote work better. We talked about Microsoft's investment in security and how we moved from a player to a leader in security. Now let's bundle it all up. And that's what Business Premium does, right? It's our most comprehensive offering to provide collaboration, productivity, and security. The value add of Premium is that it's our enterprise-grade security offering. So what does that mean? Well, it provides you with endpoint management with Intune and Configuration Manager, Azure Information Protection, so protecting you against unauthorized access, conditional access, Windows Virtual Desktop, so you can access Windows on any device, anywhere, next generation antivirus and mail protection with Defender, and cloud app security, right, to combat cyber threats across all of your cloud services. So let's be transparent, right, and walk you through some options. So to combat today's security threats, you're going to want some form of identity and access management. You're going to want some form of threat protection, information protection, endpoint management, and cloud access. And there's a lot of options to choose from. But a large reason, right, that organizations choose to move to Microsoft is simplification in one license. It's cost savings, and it's the confidence that Microsoft is a leader in each one of these categories, from deployment to management to support. Built-in security across the platform ultimately means fewer vendors or services to hire, fewer integrations to build and maintain, and fewer licenses to pay for to protect your organization. Now, I love this slide because I think it does a really, really good job of just showing just that, right? Here's an example of a customer that does care about security. They care about identity management and device management. And they also need some form of collaboration and productivity tools. Like, who doesn't want that? They can be spending upwards of more than $45 a user with all of these different third-party applications. Or they could choose Business Premium, which gives you all that integrated productivity with Office, collaboration with Teams, and our enterprise-grade security. With Business Premium, not only do you save from a hard cost, so that 26 versus 45, but you're also getting simplicity, right? It's just one license. So to close, M365 Business Premium is our most comprehensive all-in-one solution, right? It saves you money, it's easy to use, and it gives you that enterprise-grade security. Now, I went through a lot of content today, right, around Teams, security, and Business Premium, and trust me, I get it, it can be overwhelming. But that's exactly why we rely on amazing partners, right, like Shing Digital, to help you step by step on getting the most value of M365 and our modern workplace solutions. So thank you. I'd love to open up with any questions that you guys might have.
Absolutely. There are a few. There are questions and there are comments. So we have a question. Would I have two instances of Outlook if my personal email is in Outlook 2 specifically for iPhones?
Okay, so I'll give you an example, and I think it might address it a little bit. So I'm a recent grad, believe it or not. So in about June, I graduated from university. So I had an actual, I had an email associated on my Outlook that was directly to school. So I could access all of my Word, PowerPoints, Excels, everything that was related to my school environment versus my corporate while I was working, right? So it's completely siloed off, but Outlook is your email manager, right? So it's there to just assist you in having those multiple. So I can even have my Gmail right synced to my Outlook as well. It's all three, and they're all siloed off, configured to the university's privacy policies as well as my corporate Microsoft internal policies as well.
And that's on your app. You have an Apple?
I have an iPhone. Yep, I'm using an iPhone right now. Yeah.
Got it.
So that's the new Microsoft, by the way.
Yeah,
It's not a Microsoft phone anymore, right? It's we work across the different platforms. Yep.
Okay. So now I have a comment.
Sure.
Here. Microsoft really needs to include Visio, I'm Polish, and I had champagne, apparently, in its Microsoft 365 apps and Power BI without needing the really expensive plan. And there has been agreement from others. So just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the one thing, I wish I could, I could talk to Satya and make all this great stuff happen. But definitely it's been feedback that we've received across our channel, right? It's how can we incorporate more and more that we're seeing on a bigger enterprise level, or just the specific products that we have, and incorporate that within and bundle right within our existing base. So it's on the radar, and hopefully more soon to come.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will add to that a little bit too, in that absolutely, those are two great tools. We use Visio all the time. We're a huge proponent of Power BI as well. I mean, even in our business, it's helped us to really extract the data that we want from our systems in order to better visualize this so that we can make some better decisions. So those are both great tools. The one thing I will say about Visio is that in combination with things like SharePoint, or even if you're sharing something within Teams, at least the Visio online viewer is there. So this way, at least, you can share all of the great, process maps or infrastructure maps or whatever you build with the organization, and they don't need a license to see it, right? Obviously it doesn't take you all the way, but at least that part is there. And I don't believe there's a Power BI viewer yet, which I'm kind of sad about, and I wish there was.
I have a few questions that came in as the registration came in. So I'm going to ask one of them and then I'll wait at the end because I don't want us to run over time. But one is Defender the same as Defender for endpoints?
So that's a great question. And the quick response is that Microsoft loves to change the names of a lot of things, right? Very, very quickly.
We noticed.
Yes. So
Yeah.
we have a million defenders. So defender is a very generic term, unfortunately. What I will tell you is this, right? So when we talk about defender antivirus, that really incorporates that ATP part and is really that endpoint component. We also have defender for Office 365, as I mentioned before, and that is your mailbox protection, right? So to protect against those malicious emails that may come through your inbox. So they are different. There is differences. We have lots of material that kind of go over the nuances, and I'm more than happy to share those resources after the call.
Awesome. Thank you. So before I go to you, Amit, I wanted you guys to know that I did taste the grapefruit vodka, which, so here's the funny part of this. I had COVID in March and lost my taste because my smell went, and now it's like 70% back, not fully back. So I actually am not getting the full taste of it, but I like the grapefruit one. I tried the champagne. The funnest part about the champagne one, I don't know if you guys opened it up, but it has little edible gold stars, which is very sweet, but I tasted nothing but sugar. So if you guys could put in the notes what you actually tasted, especially for the champagne one, I would appreciate it because I would like to know what I'm missing. So those are the two I tasted. All right, Amit, over on to you.
Yeah, on the taste one, Dorota, I had a similar experience in April, so I can understand what you feel about it.
Oh, okay. So you're in the same group.
Yep. So I'm going to share my screen.
You're getting some folks tell you what things taste like, Dorota. So somebody says the lime has a very distinctive taste, and it does.
Okay, I'm going for that one next.
Can you see my slide okay?
Yes, we can see it. Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. So hi, everyone. My name is Amit Chauhan. I'm a partner account manager at Canada. Microsoft, I work with indirect providers and partners to make sure that we are helping accelerate the Azure growth for our customers. So in next 15 minutes, we are going to talk about a brief overview of Azure. We'll touch upon the growth Azure has seen so far. We'll touch upon some of the product and services it has, and then the ways with which we can help enable you. So let's first ground on the momentum which Azure has seen. You have observed that in the last few years, the Azure has seen tremendous amount of growth, and it's visible in this slide as well. It's a Flexera 2021 State of Cloud report. You can see 73% of the respondents currently use Azure, while other 32% are experimenting and 5% plans to use. You can compare it with other cloud providers as well. Now, we are delighted to have over 95% of Fortune 500 customers on Azure. They are on Azure, inventing with Azure. We had a wide base of customers to tap into, and they trust Azure. Now, one of the ways to define trust could be that, hey, we are available wherever you need us to support you. As you see in this graph, we have a global presence with 60 plus Azure regions, 20 plus data centers, and 4 million servers. Now, each one of these data servers provides with low latency, high availability, and latest cloud features. Security is top of mind for us, and the way we approach security is really multi-level. So it starts with the physical data centers, wherein we protect with multi-class, multi-layered protections. Now this has all those fencing and barbed wires and whatnot. There are multiple levels set up so that there's no unauthorized access. Now, the second layer is really the operational security, wherein we have restricted access, 24/7 monitoring, global security experts there. And then we have global cloud infrastructure secured with custom hardware and network protection. So we provide a basic level of security, and then we have a long list of features which our customers can leverage to have a layer of security based on their specific needs. Now, if you haven't looked at the Azure platform portfolio, you would be surprised to look at the number of services we have available on Azure. You'll see that we have over 200 services which are currently available in Azure. You'll see that we're stretching on to the edge. We have a lot of services on serverless computing. We have a wide portfolio of infrastructure services, including compute, networking, storage, and then we have a large number of tools to be leveraged by the developer community. Now, we come to this point in conversation wherein the customer understands the value of Azure and the value of cloud, but then they wonder that, hey, how to approach the journey to cloud and how to approach the migration phase. Now, typically, based off our prior experience, typically this is the journey which a customer adopts, wherein they start with migration and then they think about innovation. Our customer, which is entirely on-premises, everything is on-premise, they kind of, as a first step, they think of moving on to the Azure infrastructure. This is typically a lift and shift motion. And once they start getting benefits out of cloud, they think of innovating with serverless computing by getting more efficiency. And more than efficiency, they sort of approach towards building the customer experiences. They can also leverage the low-code platform services such as Power Platform to help innovate. Now, in the last year, we have launched over 1,000 new capabilities across containers, AI, IoTs, compute, networking, and so on. And we'll continue to launch these new capabilities to keep you ahead of the curve. Now, let's talk about some of the products and services which are there in Azure infrastructure. As you know that there's a high demand for remote work. So Azure infrastructure can help you enable connectivity and remote work. It can help you achieve efficiency and optimize costs, deliver innovation with seamless hybrid, and secure your workloads from increased cyber attacks. Now, as I said, Azure is truly global with 60 plus regions, 150 VM size options. It's best for Microsoft workloads. Since Microsoft owns and build Windows Server, it kind of works hand in hand and made for each other. Now, but we are not only focused on Windows applications, since 50% of Azure VMs run on Linux. We have partnership with Red Hat, wherein we have co-located support with Red Hat. And at the end, at last, we have partnership with SAP, VMware, Oracle, NetApp, because we want to enable your critical workload in Azure. So we are bringing the best of the world together on Azure. You can also leverage some of the Azure benefits and offers. So let's say you have licenses of Windows Server and SQL Server. You can benefit it out of cost benefits up to 50%. And you can also get benefited through extended security updates. And if we combine both of them together, the benefits, then Azure, or I would say that AWS is 5 times more expensive than Azure. You can find out more about this on aka.ms/y5x more. Now let's talk.
Sorry, Amit, to interrupt you, but could you put that link in the chat box later?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Thanks.
Now let's touch a bit upon data realities of today. So you can see that from volume, variety, and perspective, there's a huge amount of data which is gathering every single day, and which makes it important to kind of answer these questions. These questions, which are like, what data do I have? Is it trustworthy? Can people access the right data? And how can we enable faster business insights? It becomes important to answer these questions looking at today's data reality. Now, according to HBR, so the companies which adopt data-driven transformation yield significant benefits in terms of revenue as well as profits. Also, they have seen the 62% improvement in customer satisfaction and 44% faster time to market. Microsoft has its own digital transformation journey, and that's why they understand it better as compared to any other cloud providers. And their approach is based on these 4 pillars. The first one is to have the strong data foundation, having an enterprise-grade, secure, quality, discoverable data, then having the right scorecards or KPIs to measure what is it that we want to measure and what would be the impact. Then using those KPIs, we understand the customer behaviors to generate insights. And at the end, we use machine language and AI to get the connected and intelligent experiences. Now, we had a wide range of offerings based on particular customer needs. Those needs could be about data modernization, cloud native applications, analytics and insights, data science and governance, and we have the right tools available based off what your needs are. Now, talking about the application developments, once you're there on the cloud, you might have a need to modernize your applications or develop the applications which are cloud native. So we have a wide range of serverless offerings ranging from containers, managed databases, and AI, which you can leverage. You can also unleash the full potential of your developers with a powerful toolkit such as GitHub or Microsoft Visual Studio Power Apps. We have a broad set of IoT devices. Not only that, we have launched 1,000+ capabilities in the last year, but we also have developed over 1,000 IoT-enabled devices. So you can transform your businesses with Azure IoT because it's comprehensive, simple, and it's secure. There are thousands of customers which are leveraging Azure IoT, ranging from BMW or Starbucks and Mondelez and whatnot. So here are some of those customers. Now, I would love to spend next few minutes to talk about how is it that we are enabling success on Azure. So this is what we are hearing from our customers. And to make it simple, and there are 3 things which our customers are demanding. The first one is that how they can achieve cloud value successfully, how they can adapt their cloud journey to their needs, and then adopt the cloud with a clear path. So to make it short, what they're looking for is to achieve cloud value on their own terms. And how we can help? We are helping them with proven guidance and tools. We are helping them with learning resources and various partners and Microsoft-sponsored programs. So briefly, talking about the clear path which I mentioned to realize the cloud value. The first one in that direction is the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework, which they can leverage to develop their cloud adoption strategy. They can also leverage the Microsoft Well-Architect Framework, which provide the workload level guidance on architectural best practices. And then they can leverage the develop tools across their organization so that their developer team have the visibility and they can ship the codes faster. I'll touch briefly on what are the resources which can leverage to develop your team skills to use Azure. So some of the resources are Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is free. It offers free interactive self-paced learning paths. It offers virtual in-person or instructor-led training, and then it has Azure certifications to validate those skills. You can also leverage the virtual training days, which is free one-day virtual events, and which combines with presentation with demonstrations and hand-on workshops. You can also leverage the learning partners, and these partners offers a breadth of training solutions to meet your needs. Now, there are a range of Microsoft programs which can help you with your migration or which can help with technical support. And so I will not go deep into this slide because every customer has a different need, and your partner is your best friend to understand your need and help with what Microsoft programs can help you and support you with your journey. Now, to sum it up, the way we are enabling our customers is to provide proven guidance and tools, learning resources, partners, and programs. And that's the end of presentation. I know there's a lot to cover on Azure, but in the interest of time, I've just tried to keep it short and simple and give a high-level overview of Azure.
Thank you so much. So we have some questions for you. The first one is, what would you say to finance users who wonder whether their data would be more secure to stay on-prem and less visible, rather than putting it in the cloud where more people are more likely to be focused on hacking Azure?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a question of security and compliance. There are two components in this. So Microsoft has a wide range of security solutions. So if those security solutions are implemented, coupled with the right set of compliance, I think data would be secure and on cloud as well. There are a lot of finance customers. There are a lot of big names which are already there on Azure, leveraging the full capability of Azure, and they're working securely. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and to sort of add to what Amit was talking about, and we're kind of jumping ahead because I actually have that in one of my slides, right? Which is what Amir brought up earlier from the Business Premium package, which is I don't know if he actually covered it, but it was there in the slide, is the Azure Information Protection, which helps you to take sensitive information and be able to protect it so that it doesn't leave the virtual walls of the company, right? Even though it's sitting up in the cloud, you can control who has access to it. You can control how long it lives when it gets shared, or even if it can be shared. So the plans and everything that Microsoft has, certainly there are ways to make sure that especially sensitive data is protected and doesn't go outside. We also have to call them virtual walls these days with everybody working from anywhere, right? There's no longer any physical walls that sort of restrain our work. So.
I have a couple more questions that I wanted to ask. What is considered a serverless service?
Serverless is kind of the PaaS service which Microsoft is offering. So you don't have to worry about the servers and infrastructure which is lying behind. You just have to use this platform, and Microsoft will take care of all the infrastructure which is behind that. So based on your need, you can leverage these offerings there.
So on that note, I have part two. Question part two. What is the difference between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service?
Yeah, so when you say infrastructure as a service, Microsoft provides the infrastructure. Such, let's say you have a computer or server sitting on-premise, but you want the same thing on Azure, so which means you're transferring your on-premise on the Azure infrastructure. So that is infrastructure as a service. But when it comes to platform as a service, Microsoft is offering you a platform. So you don't have to manage the infrastructure which is behind that. You just have to use that specific capability which you need to run your business.
Okay, perfect. Mariana, did that answer your question about the virtual desktops? If you could just let us know. And then Mark comments, cost certainly is always a concern of my bean counter colleagues, which is a challenge when trying to estimate cost in the cloud given their variable nature. What are the strategies that can be used to better predict and minimize your cloud costs? And I just want to say we get this question a lot. So yes, it's not just Mark who is asking that.
Exactly. And I do deal with that in part of my presentation as well. So hopefully maybe we can kind of park that question until the end. And in terms of Mariana, the question about whether or not virtual desktops is part of serverless, I guess you can kind of technically say it's serverless because Microsoft handles all of the back end from the server perspective on the Azure virtual desktops. And your users are mainly just interacting with the instances that get spun up. So I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody can come up with a better technical answer, but I guess sort of is the best way to describe it.
Mariana is happy with that answer, so that's all good. One more question. Can I bring my own firewall to Azure? Like not me personally, but that's the question.
Yeah, so I believe Microsoft has supports the hybrid infrastructure. So if you want to use your own on firewall on your infrastructure, that is very much possible. So, but when it comes to the technicalities behind that, so I'm not very sure around that. So this is something which I need to dig a bit before I answer it.
Okay,
yeah,
no problem.
And I can probably help with some of that answer in that mostly yes, it depends on which firewall you use. Most of the major firewall vendors have a addition that you can put onto Azure. So instead of using the Microsoft firewall, you could use your own. So we've done quite a few of those implementations. Not every vendor yet has a version, but generally all of the major ones are going to have them.
So the answer is sometimes. Okay. So I just wanted to let you guys know that based on your comments, the tequila lime is indeed my favorite because I could taste it. So that's my condition right there. I tried the tropical gin punch, which was a little bit more subtle. I could taste it a little bit. I feel like these are being really wasted on me. I won't lie to you because like there's like nothing happening except for sweetness. But tequila lime I could taste. So thank you for that advice. Now, besides me not being able to taste these properly, I would love to get some more feedback from people throughout the session as to what they think about the cotton candy. So I am going to now say thank you, Amit, very much, and I'll pass this on to you, Kash, now, and we will deal with more questions at the very end. So over to you, Kash.
Perfect. So let me just load up my slides. All right. How's that? Everybody seeing my slides?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thanks everybody for attending this afternoon. Like I said, I kind of cheated on my cotton candy and I started eating it last night. So that way I wouldn't have like a mouthful of candy as I was kind of going through this presentation. But thanks for joining us. Like I said, my portion of the presentation is going to be a little bit different than Amir's and Amit's. They focused a little bit more on product. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the readiness aspect. You know, to Mark's point earlier about, you know, the cost certainty on the cloud. I'm going to address some of that during my presentation. So, you know, if you guys have questions during my presentation, by all means, fire away. I love questions and answering questions as I'm going through presentations. Whenever I don't get any questions, I feel like I'm kind of talking to a wall. So much appreciated if you guys give some comments. So in the slides that Amit had, you know, he had there in terms of the word journey, right? And that's really what the migration or the movement to the cloud is. It's a journey, and it's a journey without an end, right? M365, as what Amir went through, is just the beginning, right? I would say most of the folks here that I know probably start off with Business Basic and have moved on to Business Standard. I know there's some folks on here that are on E3 and on E5, which is absolutely awesome. right? And hopefully with Amir's presentation, we can convince some of you to move up to the business premium package. But Amir's presentation today on the business package really wasn't really about that package itself, but it was more about the continued journey to the cloud, right? And how you continue to consume the services that M365 has and how you can sort of continue your journey on. And really for us, we almost consider M365 or the Microsoft guys are probably going to frown on me, but I still consider it Office 365 because I've known it since it began. So sometimes if I slip and I say, oh, 365, I really mean M365. But we really kind of consider that the gateway drug to the cloud, right? Because what it does is it gives you a taste of what everything would look like if you had all of the services and you didn't have to worry about any of your servers or backend or IT folks to maintain it, right? So it's really a great gateway for you to kind of move on in your journey, right? But there is so much more to it, even a lot more than what Admin pointed out today in terms of his presentation. So we're just scratching the surface. And I'm not going to go deep dive into all of the services today, right? We can always have that conversation later. Now, I wanted to kind of throw some numbers out there, and more so this is a survey of our clients versus an industry survey, because I'm sure the industry surveys are going to say some different things. But what I really wanted to bring out in this pie chart is where are the clients that we deal with, the customers that we deal with, where are they today in terms of their cloud adoption, right? I would say we still have a small percentage of clients that are still kind of using their private cloud and their own data centers and still running their own servers. I think a lot of them still have a hesitation to move to the cloud. Eventually, they're going to get there, right? But today, they're a very small percentage. We also have a small percentage that went the Google route versus the Microsoft route. But as you can see here, the good majority of our customers, 95% plus of our customers, are on the Microsoft side. And part of that reason is because a lot of their peers are also on the Microsoft 365 side, which means that collaboration not only between your internal company, but also with your customers, your partners, right? You have a very unified platform by which to collaborate. So that's one of the big reasons that the Microsoft platform, at least we believe in what we're seeing in our customer base, is sort of winning out over Google and some of the other platforms that are out there. Now, how about customers that are moving to a cloud-only adoption model where they no longer have any on-prem servers or any kind of services that they're running? This is a little bit different, right? The numbers here are mostly skewed toward our SMB customers because they tend to, not have as big or complex infrastructures as our medium or large businesses, right? And we're starting to see a significantly bigger number of them asking about a cloud-only deployment. Today, they probably sit around 15% of our customer base in terms of our SMBs. And so they purely run off of Microsoft 365, no on-premise servers whatsoever. And we've got about 1% that are probably less than 1% that are running on G Suite, but we do have some. But the majority of our customers in the mid-size and up are all running a hybrid model where they're picking and choosing which workloads belong in the cloud and which ones need to stay on-prem for now. So we're going to see this over time change, where I think as the comfort level and as the technology and the software catch up, I think you're going to see this balance off a little bit more, where we're going to start to see a lot more clients on cloud-only model and where there's no longer any more on-premise servers or infrastructure. It will take time, but I certainly believe that we're gonna start moving in that direction a lot quicker. Now, every cloud journey is different, right, and unique, because every customer has different applications or we like to call it workloads, right? Every customer has different workloads. Every customer has different needs. So what I'm going to be talking to you about here is sort of where most cloud journeys begin, right? And most of the cloud journeys for most customers usually begin in M365. So the package that Amir posted up earlier, which was the business basic package, is probably where a lot of customers started off from, right? And probably the easiest way for them to adopt the cloud is Exchange Online. A lot of customers had Exchange on-premise, and so Exchange Online was sort of the natural path of them to go because it was a known factor. And from all of our customers, from ones that were running SBS servers to all of our customers who are running large Exchange clusters, the pain, the hassle, the downtime in dealing with that is probably what prompted a lot of them for that initial change. Because certainly that was a lot of the initial asks from us, was to migrate their Exchange into Exchange Online. And then for the next service, which is Teams, I'm going to talk a little bit pre and post-pandemic, because pre-pandemic, a lot of our clients had Teams within the packages that they had, whether that be Business Basic, Business Standard, Business Premium, or E3, E5. But it was very underutilized. Now, in the midst of the pandemic, right, that completely changed. The need to communicate quicker, to collaborate quicker, really necessitated a lot of the clients adopt Teams. And we certainly went through a lot of that with our clients, where, middle of last year, the calls were coming in. How do we collaborate better? How do we collaborate faster? What is there? And so we probably did more boot camp on Teams last year on how to use it and how to make the best out of it or the most out of it than we've ever had in the history of the company. So we got very good at giving a lot of Teams boot camps to our customers. And now I know Microsoft will also offer a free service where they'll train your teams and your staff on how to use some of these services. But a lot of our clients were just reaching out in very desperate last year saying, we need this and we need this right now. So this was a huge driver. And, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the adoption rate for Teams last year just went through the roof. So this is a huge driver for the platform today. And also OneDrive for Business. Again, I'm going to kind of go through a pre and a post, right, of the, I wouldn't say post, but pre-pandemic and what happened during the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, I would say that the majority of the use cases that we saw for OneDrive was simply as a place for you to take files and move it around, right? Some people used to use Dropbox, and then with the OneDrive, they adopted that so that they would throw a file into OneDrive, take it home to work on it, and so this way next day when they came back to the office, it was still there. That was probably a big portion of the use case. Some people used it because they needed to share big files with folks outside of the company, but very limited use in terms of OneDrive. Now, a year and a half into the pandemic, OneDrive has become a key portion to a lot of our companies. Instead of having home drives on the server, now all of the home drives are redirected to OneDrive. So your documents, your pictures, even your desktop are all redirected to OneDrive. So this way, from all the computers that you're logging into, you've got a consistent experience in terms of where all of your files reside. So now it becomes the primary place where work is done versus just a repository and sort of a transient service to move things about. And the same thing with SharePoint as well. SharePoint has been a part of Microsoft as it used to be called Essentials, and now it's Basic. It's been part of it for a very long time. And I would say a lot of our customers really didn't know what to do with SharePoint. They could create a few department portals, they could share a little bit of information, but they really didn't take advantage of all of their features. Now, during the pandemic, one of the things that we've done is we've started to help our customers to identify and analyze their file usage and their file structures, and how we can move a lot of those directly into document libraries within SharePoint. And then from there, map those document libraries via GPO or other means directly to all of the computers, so that way the users can use them just as if they were using their share folders from a server. But now everything is from a cloud perspective. So now not only are our clients using the portal service a lot more, but now all of the files that are contained within that department are all consistent. So this way, from one location or from multiple different services, you can go in and you can find all of your files and services today. Even this PowerPoint that I'm presenting right now, for us, resides on our document library from our sales side. So this way, my team has a consistent place to go find it, and we can go and co-edit the file and work on it all together. So definitely the pandemic has really sort of shifted how people not only think about the cloud, but the amount of utilization of the cloud services that they get from these services. So these are sort of the core four services, which really start a lot of our clients' journeys to the cloud today. Now, going forward, what are some of the things? So to one of the comments earlier about what do you say to finance in terms of how do they make sure that their data is protected? So that's probably one of the biggest concerns, not only to finance, but to a lot of the customers who give us or ask us about, is it safe to move to the cloud? And we can talk about all of the Microsoft safety and everything that's put in there. We can talk about the large teams that take care of the infrastructure to make sure that it's secure, right? But how do we alleviate that fear from each individual customer or the finance department? So as part of Business Premium, and as you go up the stack in terms of the packages as well, Azure information protection becomes a big piece of how we protect your virtual walls and how we keep things within your virtual walls. We can do things like set up classifications for documents. We can protect document libraries. We can protect even emails, right? With a simple click from your application to classify a document as, say, confidential. And maybe the confidential means that that document can't be shared outside the company. So that way, even if somebody were to take that file and to copy it onto a USB drive and take it away, well, the Azure information protection tags on that document stay with it. And when it gets opened, it's going to do the verification. And if it can't verify, it's not going to be allowed to open. So Azure information protection as part of Business Premium is huge because that brings that big virtual or that big almost like a virtual fence down to a package that almost everybody can use and consume. So Azure information protection is a huge way in which customers can be confident that when they're moving their data to the cloud, that it can stay protected. Another piece which is great that is part of Business Premium as well is Azure AD Premium. Azure AD Premium allows us to find a better replacement for the on-premise Active Directory that you have. What it does is it also allows us to implement advanced features like multi-factor authentication by the Microsoft Authenticator app, or if you want to use a third-party MFA, like, for example, Duo, right? It's the advanced, or it's the AD Premium P1 that gives you that ability to have that, and also to give you that additional conditional access as well. So we can put rules around where people can access information or connect to information, and also conditions in terms of whether or not the computer that they're using passes certain thresholds in order for us to allow them to connect to information from the company. So that's a great way to sort of keep that. And now the majority of our customers will buy that separately depending on which package they have, right, in order to get some of those additional features. So the fact that it's bundled in there with that Business Premium is a huge benefit. And Amir talked a little bit about the Intune and what it can do. But Intune is a huge replacement for how we used to automate. I say we used to, we still do, but how we automate things via group policies, right? Intune allows us to push down software policies, allows us to push down computer policies, and it allows us to manage all different types of devices. Versus group policies, we can only write a group policy for Windows workstations, but with Intune, we can use that to protect a multitude of devices, from your Macs to your Windows PCs to your iPhones and to your Android devices. And so it definitely goes way above and beyond what group policies can do. So there's a question from Jason about what the difference is between AD Free and AD Pro or the AD Premium. So a big part of those, Jason, is there is some additional logging in the back end. So a lot of the security aspects that we talk about in terms of Microsoft, you need some of those additional extensions or APIs opened up in order for you to get access to them. So that's one. The other is the multi-factor authentication. Whether or not you're going to use the Microsoft Authenticator app or if you're going to use a third-party app, you have to have the at least AD Premium 1 in order to enable any of those services. Unless you're an administrator. If you're an administrator of your M365, you sort of get the MFA enabled from Microsoft side. But if you want something more, and especially for all of your users, you have to be on Azure AD Premium 1. And of course, as we're kind of going through our journey and sort of transforming our businesses, one of the legacy pieces that we still all have in our organizations is, our phone systems, our PBXs, how we communicate with the real world. So Teams not only allows us to collaborate virtually, have virtual calls with all of our team members, our staff, our partners, but by integrating Teams voice, right, we can also bring your PBX all within Teams to create a fully unified communication system as well. So Teams can not only become your virtual communication, but it can become your real communication when you need to make a phone call as well. So as an example, we did this digital transformation at the end of last year, where because all of our folks are working from everywhere, we needed a way to be able to bring, I shouldn't say we needed a way to bring it all in because we were already running a VoIP system, but we wanted it so that all of our staff were running one system by which to do their communication. So that way they weren't having to run multiple apps. We had to maintain multiple infrastructure. So the Teams voice really helped us to kind of transform that. So when you call into our company today, you're actually going through Teams, and we're answering that through Teams. So it's a service that can allow you to unify all of your communication into one platform. And of course, we know communication is complex, right? Some people still have a phone system with a PRI. Some are using a modern VoIP system with SIP trunks. A lot of our customers have, over the last few years, have moved over to the SHA or the TELUS VoIP phone system service, right? And so what we've done over this last year is really help our customers to integrate what they have or to migrate from what they have into Teams voice. And there's two different methods by which to consume Teams voice. You can move all of your phone numbers into Teams, and which is probably the easier way to do it. Or if you're in a contract for your PRI or for your VoIP trunk, such as us, we have, I think, another 3 years to go on our SIP trunk that comes into our office. And then what we do is we build a bridge between that and Teams. So even though we don't have to get out of our existing contract, it allows us to sort of funnel all of that voice in from our existing SIP trunk up to Teams. So that way, from our users or our staff's perspective, everything is still coming into Teams for that unified communication. So especially these days with the ability to work from anywhere, staying in communication with your customers, with your partners, and with your staff are absolutely key. Now, I consider all of the stuff that I just talked about the easy stuff, right? Because a lot of that is based on M365. A lot of it is software as a service. And so that is a very easy piece. The next piece we're going to kind of start talking about is all of the custom, not necessarily custom, but all of the workloads that everybody has, from their ERP systems to their CRM systems to all of the different applications or workloads that they run on premise today, right? From an industry perspective, I would say that most software vendors that we've talked to or that we've worked with our customers, for the most part, they're all on that same journey. They're currently rewriting a lot of their applications so that it can be cloud native and cloud efficient, and then you can consume that as either a software as a service, or at the very least, they'll write a cloud efficient model that then you can put into your own tenant, such as Azure, right? And if that is the case, that is always going to be our number one recommendation, is to use software as a service, anything that's been pre-built that you can easily consume as a service. That's always the number one recommendation that we would give. Obviously, there's still a lot of considerations to make sure that it works, but ultimately, if your ERP provider has a cloud version, that would be the number one option to take a look at to see if it fits from a value perspective and a cost perspective, right, before you look at things like lifting and shifting your existing infrastructure into the cloud. And there's a question if you funnel Teams voice through TELUS SIP trunk, Are we doubling up the costs and you have to pay for Teams, telephony licensing, and SIP? So it depends. If you simply have a SIP trunk from your service provider, such as TELUS, going into your VoIP phone system, then no, you wouldn't be doubling your costs. Essentially, you would be giving up your SIP or your VoIP phone system, and then we would just be redirecting that SIP all the way up to Teams. But if you are using the TELUS VoIP service where you also get all of the phones from them and everybody has a DID, like I said, those are the ones where you have to take a look and see sort of where the cost benefits are going to be. So absolutely, we can, if you want to reach out to us afterwards, Mariana, we can always sort of go through that discussion and see what that looks like and see if it makes sense. All right, so number one option, if your software vendor has a SaaS option, that is number one. But what about if they don't? What about if they don't and you still need to lift and shift what you have existing on-premise into the cloud? What are some of the things that you have to consider? And we always like to say the first thing to do is to sort of build a business case. So to Mark's point earlier about how do you contain cost, right? And one of the first things that we always talk about in terms of making a business case for going to the cloud is just simply working out a dollars for dollar cost savings is probably not the best way to do it. I will say that the majority of our implementations or our cloud migrations has generally increased the raw cost for our customers and sometimes fairly significantly, right? So cost savings should never be the number one thing in your business case when you're talking about moving to the cloud. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't save you money overall, but a lot of companies tend to look on a one-to-one. How much is it going to cost me to buy this server, to transition it, over a 3 to 5 period versus what my monthly is going to be on my cloud service, right? What you have to do is you have to look at the holistic value of moving to the cloud, right? And to take a lot more things into consideration. For example, right, what does the application or the workload uptime look like? Considering everybody is working from anywhere and working from home, you want them to keep productive. You don't want to have to fight to make sure that the servers and the applications are continually running. You don't want to have to worry about that there's a localized internet outage that might not allow all of your folks that are working from home access to your applications. So the value of keeping the application and the workloads up and running so that way you can keep all of your staff continue to be working and productive, right? That is a great reason as to why you might want to move to the cloud, even though from a raw cost perspective, it might be a little bit higher. And the other thing, obviously, is the aging data center, right? Now, depending on how much of an infrastructure you have, if you have one server, it might be a little bit tougher to make the value proposition. But if you've got a large server farm of all of these servers that you have to maintain and the data center that you have to maintain, it becomes much easier to make that business case for where you can offload the value of having to keep that data center up and running to Microsoft Azure, where they've got a team of thousands that make sure that their data centers are up and running optimally. And if there is a problem, it's not just 1 or 2 or even 3 IT folks that are helping you to get that back and running. There's a massive team of Microsoft engineers that are working round the clock to make sure that uptime stays as high as possible. So whenever you're going through a large data center refresh, that is probably a really good time to take a look at it to see whether or not that business case is going to be there for you to do that cloud migration. And for those of you that have customer-facing applications, such as a web portal for them to do ordering or to check on their orders or to check the status of their of the project or whatever they're engaging you folks with, right? The customer expectation these days is that everything is up and operational 24/7, right? I would say with all of the cloud services that are out there today, the expectations for downtime or the tolerance for downtime is much lower. So if you do have that customer-facing portion of any of your applications or websites and you need to keep that up and running, to make the business case to move to the cloud, that can become a huge part of that business case, right? Or it could be flexibility. We certainly have some clients that are on the call today that are in some cyclical businesses, where during certain parts of the time or when they have some projects going, they've ramped up, they're fully staffed, but then as soon as the project is complete or maybe the season is over, they ramp down in terms of the number of people that they need and the number of resources that they need to consume. So, at the height, you can ramp up, and then when things are at the low season or when certain major projects, there's a lull in the project, you have that flexibility to be able to change your workloads and change how much you're consuming. So flexibility can add, the ability to have that flexibility can add a lot of value to what that business case is. And of course, when you make the business case, stakeholder buy-in is key, right? You want everybody up and down the entire organization that's going to be affected by this cloud migration to make sure that they're on board with the value that they're going to be getting from the cloud migration. So this is probably the most important part before we even get to the technical aspects. But when we do get to the technical aspects, here at Shing, how do we do it, right? And the first thing that we do is we analyze your infrastructure, right? Amit has shown a lot of Azure services today, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that we assess all of your infrastructure and all of your workloads to make sure that we're putting you into the right plans. I think he had mentioned that there was 150, I think, sizes of VMs, right? We want to make sure that we're getting you into the right one when we're lifting and shifting, because if we don't contain those costs, they can certainly run out of control. And so, one of the first things that we do is make sure that we do a deep dive of the infrastructure and the workloads that you're using on that infrastructure. So this is just a bit of a sample of some of the things that we do when we kind of run through that, right? And we dig pretty deep in terms of what is the usage of all of your infrastructure, how you're using it, and over a period of time, what it looks like, where's the major usage, how's the CPU looking like, how's the memory looking like, how is your storage, right? Because all of those aspects, if you've gone into try to size it in Azure VM, it asks you all of those questions, right? And so this is how we gather all of those details for us when we fill that in to make sure that we're getting you the right VM. But beyond just getting you into the right VM, one of the other things that we also analyze is there a better way to do it? Rather than just lifting and shifting a VM and moving into Azure, are there additional ways that we can take advantage of some of the things that Amit was talking about earlier, such as serverless servers or serverless services, right? Like one of the big things is the separation between the application and the database. So there's still a lot of workloads that are running out there today where both the application server as well as the database server both reside on the same VM. Can we look at some efficiencies by separating the two and moving the database portion into the Azure SQL service? So this way we can minimize what we need from a VM level, which we know is very expensive, right, to the SQL level, which can be a little bit more controlled, right, and be a little bit more cost efficient, right, in terms of how we consume that cloud service. Or maybe we have a VM that is file heavy, right? Instead of putting it onto a VM, perhaps we move it onto Azure file storage, where we can create shares and share it out, just like we would as if we had a file server, but we don't have to have a physical server that runs it, right? Or perhaps even what we do is we move it to an Azure blob storage that allows us to be even more efficient in terms of how we interact with it and what kind of information we can put into it and how much information we can put into it. So these are all of the analysis pieces that we kind of go through when we talk about, how do we do that cloud readiness assessment for you, right? And how does it work, and are you ready to get there? And last but not least, and this is probably my least favorite part of the cloud readiness, is maybe we can't easily or efficiently, pick up something and move it today, right? So then what happens? Well, then the application will probably, or the workload needs to be redeveloped, right? As Amit showed, there's a lot of different tools by which to make that happen. Obviously, you need a development team to make that happen, or reach out to your software vendor to make that happen. But we like to always think of this as the last resort, right? look at all of our options and how we can make things cost efficient and cloud efficient before we have to get to the point where the applications or the workloads have to be redeveloped. And that's a little bit of a sneak peek into how we do our cloud readiness for our clients. So, if anybody has any questions, and my contact information is here as well. So if anybody has any questions after this, you've got my email address by which to contact me.
So Cash, I do have a couple of questions. I know that you were answering them as you were going through. But one of those is, how trustworthy is Teams Voice?
So we've been running Teams Voice since about late December, and if we're talking security, I think Amir sort of dealt with some of the security aspects. If we're talking about reliability, I mean, I don't think even though there has been some, I wouldn't say outages, but some disruptions on the Microsoft 365 cloud a couple of times, our voice never went down. It continued to function, and we've never had any major disruptions with the voice at all.
Okay. The other question is around the cloud readiness assessment. What's the cost? Is it free? What are we doing?
It really depends on how complex of an engagement you need from us. So, if it's one or two workloads that you want to move, or it's a fairly simple one, we do some of the simple assessments, such as the tools that we can run to take a look at the infrastructure and what the usage looks like. That absolutely will do for free for you guys. If you need us to sort of do a deeper dive into each of the workloads and how we can sort of separate out all the different pieces to make them more cloud efficient, that's going to be a consulting engagement from us.
Okay. I have one more question, and that's it. Why do you think that there is a better adoption rate for Microsoft 365 versus the G Suite?
Honestly, I think it's because of the integration. From an integration perspective, Microsoft 365 has always allowed you to run a bit of a hybrid model where you can consolidate what your cloud resources are with your on-prem resources. And so all of the people that were invested in like Active Directory or SBS or something like that all sort of had that easy migration path, right? And then it just comes down to critical mass. When you start seeing all of your partners and your customers adopt 365 for some of those reasons, you don't want to deviate from that path because you want to be able to collaborate with everybody. Not saying that G Suite is not a good app or a good suite at all, because it is. It's just from a commercial perspective in organizations, from security to integration to the amount of services, I don't think you can beat M365, to be honest with you.
Okay. Chad mentioned that our 365 voice has, to my surprise, met all our needs. I was waiting for staff not to be happy, but they are. So, yay! Happy about that.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to make sure that we honor the time. We started out a little bit late, but I do understand that people have next thing to go to. I put in the chat, and I will email all of you again, the discount code for the Sugar Cube. They have actually really fun things. They even have an advent calendar, which is a candy advent calendar, which is so fun. And they have, of course, many Halloween things. It's a local business. It's really, really sweet. And so remember that it expires on the 31st at midnight. So use that up as you can. Any questions that you might have, you have Cash's email address. I will also email all of you guys, so you will have my email address in case you don't already, so that we can answer any of your questions. Now, with regards to this bad boy, this is worth $2,000 and I really want to keep it, but I was told I can't. So as a matter of fact, when I brought it, because as you can see, I'm working from home. When I brought it home, my partner was like, ooh, and I'm like, no. No, not for us. So the way you get this is there is, of course, a bit of a catch. When you, thanks, Joel, when you book a meeting with us to talk about any of these cloud-based services, even if you're not going to engage us, if you have questions, need more information, need to do any planning for 2022, you are going to, your name goes into a hat, a virtual hat, and then in 2 weeks we're going to do a draw and you get this, and it's either delivered to you or sent to you. So please book a meeting, again, with myself or Cash, and if nobody books a meeting, this will be mine. So in a way, no, I do want you to book a meeting. So thank you very much. I will be sending the recording of this to everybody, including all of the rest of this information. We really appreciate your attendance and hope to see you virtually or in person very soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.